something bad to us, we are going to do things to you that have never been done before.
Up, yes, we're slowly coming up by the look of it. That's a good way for it to begin. Now, I have a few interesting little things to show you today, folks. Where will I begin? Okay, look, I have seen some interesting comments in the chat. Somebody said Donald Trump turned up. Don't know if I keep dropping out on you or not. I'm in the middle of a thunderstorm here at the moment, so anything is quite possible with the connection. So, although we are on, we're on Dingo at the moment. I might nearly swap that. Oh no, we're on the Huawei. So okay, we're going to play with the Chinese internet tonight and see how well that goes. And it may or may not succeed. The weather has just turned really crappy. But that is the thing. So yeah, Donald Trump did turn up to a rally in Wisconsin in a garbage truck and fully dressed as a garbage man and conducted the rally fully dressed as a garbage man. And you better believe it, made a heap of mileage out of the fact that Biden called anybody who supports Trump garbage. Now, I think this was in some sort of a toss back to the comedian who appeared at Madison Square Garden and referred to Puerto Rico as something of a garbage pile in the middle of the ocean, which may or may not be correct. But this is their way of swinging back. Of course, you will remember that the deplorables comment helped Hillary Clinton so much in 2016. Mainstream media in the US are claiming that the difference between a win and a loss in this presidential election is 3% of the vote. Well, that's bullshit. Anything that they're doing at the moment in the US regarding Kamala Harris is to build an impression that her support is much greater than, in fact, it really is. And I mean much greater than it really is. It's all going to come tumbling down, of course, but the big con might well be on. In fact, there is a lot of indications that vote rigging continues unabated in this US election, with Marines catching people stuffing ballot boxes in not one, but 3 or 4 states, including Arizona, including Pennsylvania, and I want to say Georgia. There may have been others, and in fact, I think it's ongoing. One of those people that was arrested for ballot stuffing had in their possession nearly 1,800 votes, all of which were for Kamala Harris. So there's certainly a significant argument that might suggest that in the not too distant future, we might see another steal happening. I don't know. I think the support for Trump will probably be overwhelming if we get to the election. And I'm still saying if we get to the election. I know you're not interested in that at all. You're probably interested in what this thing here over my shoulder is, are you? This little bag? Oh, I'll show you. I'll show you the other side of this little bag, shall I? It might be a bit hard. Yes, in there is the little bundle of joy that we have named Josie. Give me one moment here. I will attempt to give you a little bit of a look at Josie. So that is the little baby girl. You probably aren't getting much of an idea of just how big she is. So I will make an attempt to show you a bit better of a view. And I'll play this one instead. that's a little noise she makes, that screeching noise. So this gives you an idea of the size and colour. She really is a pinky, this one. There's very little fur. No, she wasn't just thrown in there. That's the way they like to get into their mother's pouch. They sort of do a little somersault. So you try and make a hole for them. They see the hole, they dive on into it. And that is the level of cuteness we've had to deal with. So that was this morning. She slept with me last night under here, pretty much. She got a hold of my beard and really enjoyed that. And I think I said yesterday that the biggest issue last night particularly was getting some food into her, which we succeeded in doing. Not a great deal, but we got some. And keeping her warm, that was the big thing. So last night, I didn't have her in a pouch as such because it hadn't dawned on me to use that backpack. I did have her in something kind of like that. But she decided she wanted to be out and cuddle up against me. So she wound up in my shirt for a while, on my chest for most of the night. And at one point, she decided to get up and climb over me and go to my back. I arranged myself in bed in such a manner that she was between me and this. And if I went to roll to my left at all while I was in my sleep, my left wrist wouldn't let me do that without waking me up. So thankfully, she stayed where she was meant to be. I stayed where I was meant to be, and we both survived the night. But this morning, I was a little concerned, I've got to admit. But we have a fella here who lives on the property called Dwayne, but I'm referring to him these days as Harry Butler. There isn't too much about the bush he doesn't know, and he's been a wealth of help to me because I discovered last night that it is very difficult to get the teat on the milk bottle with one hand that works. So I had to invite Dwayne over to help me put a teat on. Not the kind of thing you expect to ask a bushy to do, but he did. We also fed her again this morning. He came over about 6:30 and was a huge help. We got, I don't know, about 10 or 15, or about 10 mil into her this morning at 6:30. At around 9:30, 10 o'clock, we got another 15 or so into her. I was a bit concerned because she hasn't had a wee or a poo in the time that she's been with me. The poo part, not necessarily a problem. When she does poo, it's going to be a ripper. And being so little, I suspect it will be just like any practically newborn's poo. It ain't going to be fun, but better out than in. And I've got her in a place where, well, in that bag where she can do whatever she likes. I've got a little puppy pad down the bottom of it, so if she wheezes, although interestingly, I don't know that I'll film it and show you, but there is a technique you use. Urine burn can be a real issue for baby marsupials. So their mother generally will get them out of the pouch for a small period of the time every day. And when she has them out of there, she encourages them to wee by, well, I think she licks their cloaca. I wasn't going to lick that. But a little bit of tickling with your finger. And she had a nice wee this afternoon, along with another 15 mils. So pretty chuffed. She was sort of due for a feed about now, but it's a bit too difficult to try and feed her while I'm doing this. So she's not too perturbed in there. She's all wrapped up. She's warm, and I'll feed her as soon as we finish here tonight. In fact, I'm popping over the road. The neighbour's going to help me tonight with a little bit of luck. So she's doing well at this juncture, as well as can be expected. I'm sure she'd be doing better with her mum, but I haven't seen a wallaby on the property today at all. I did go for a bit of a look earlier, and it's hard. They see you coming a mile off and they disappear. So, and how would I know which one's mum? And it's not like I can put her out in the middle of the paddock and just leave her. We have a lot of birds around here too, birds of prey, and they see something like this on the ground, they'll take it very quickly. So for the moment, inside the backpack it is. And I just want to make special mention now to two wonderful people who are friends of our family here. Sandy and Baz from the Donkey Sanctuary down in New South Wales. Two of the most amazing people you would ever meet in your life. And if you can help the Donkey Sanctuary in any way, shape, or form, then please reach out and do so. And in fact, Sandy, I might have somebody who wants to help you along the way here too. So I'll have to give you a call about that later. Sandy and Baz have sent me a care parcel today because at the moment I'm finding it very difficult to get the right formula for a wallaby. So we have a formula for marsupials, which is fine. It'll do. But there is a better one that she'll put on a bit more fat with a bit quicker. And they're going to send me, or have sent me, some of that. They've sent me a range of pouches because as she grows, she's going to need a bigger pouch. That one really is probably too big for her at the moment. She really is more of a decent-sized beanie pouch at the moment. But in there is a little warming pad in the bottom here, and I've got a wind cheater that she's wrapped up in a fleecy line wind cheater that she sort of burrows down into and seems to like. So she's okay at the moment. So we'll see how it goes. I'm hopeful that she continues to go the way we're going. I'd like to see her get a bit more food into her. But you can't force it down them. And I was speaking today to some other wildlife carers, and we were discussing, we've sort of figured out that she's maybe 7 to 8 months of age. And what you see on her when I show you this little picture, that is not fur you're seeing on her. It is almost like velvet. So her fur isn't really coming in yet. It will, or it'll start to come in, or is starting to come in on the right side of her neck up behind her ears, but it's only just starting to come in. Now, fur in wallabies usually doesn't start coming through until they're about 8 or 9 months of age. So she could be an early developer maybe, but I would say at this stage she's between 7 and 8 months, and she will live in a pouch for essentially another 6 months at least, I would say. I don't think she will come out of that pouch other than to go to the toilet. I'll let her out of it a couple of times a day. Marsupials need vitamin B and vitamin D. D comes from the sun, thankfully. B, I think, comes from somewhere else. But they need vitamin D, and they need that sunlight. So what you saw there with that video was us having her out in the sun a little bit this morning. And when I say a little bit, I mean a little bit. This little baby is very, very immature. She doesn't have great strength in her legs. She doesn't have really good balance yet. That's why you see her wobbling. She doesn't know really how to control her tail yet. So she's, a little wobbly on her feet, and her little bones, my God, her little bones are so fine. I'm so careful just putting her into the bag or pulling her out of the bag, whichever it happens to be. And but she's resilient and strong. Those little claws, my God! If I didn't want to offend you, I'd take my top off and show you where she scratched my chest. She's got some good feet. Got some really good feet. So I'm honored. I've got so much support around here to help look after her as well. In fact, there are a couple of people on the property who actually grew up with kangaroos, had them as kids. So there is plenty of advice, plenty of help. And overnight, along with Sandy and Baz reaching out, I've actually had emails from 3 vets who've been watching the show, and they've all emailed me their phone numbers. And should I need any advice, I'm to pick up the phone and ring them immediately. So thank you very much for all your support and help in that regard. Please keep your prayers going for the little one. She is, well, still very susceptible to a number of things. Getting cold is probably the worst one. They get pneumonia very, very, very quickly. and it's usually terminal at this age particularly. So keeping her warm is of paramount importance. And tonight there will be a water bottle for her in the bottom of that bag rather than the heat pad I've got at the moment, because I haven't got any more heat pads and that one will be worn out. So there'll be a hot water bottle in the bottom there. Going to try and get it as close as we can to the temperature of her mother's pouch, which will be somewhere between 38 and 40 degrees. So might even be a little warmer, but we're going to aim for somewhere between 38 and 40 degrees. And yeah, we'll see what happens. Hookster, yeah, Rumble is down tonight. So we have no viewers from Rumble tonight, unfortunately. It's down across all platforms. Well, the platform is down to every user. You can go and watch stuff on Rumble, but as of even 15 minutes ago, we cannot get into live stream. So hopefully a lot of you Rumble users will come across to the YouTube channels and you'll be getting a bit of a look tonight. We look forward to catching you back maybe tomorrow at some stage. Silver Fox, I like what you're saying here. That was telling you horror stories about people with turbo cancers and clots. Yep, happening everywhere. You said you trust the vet to treat you better, yeah, than SA Health. Well, I think a lot of people feel that way. I can tell you that my anxiety level with this on Sunday, yeah, I was significantly concerned that I was going to need to have it realigned in some way. That would mean anesthetic, needles, jabs, questions, all that sort of shit. I was trying to weigh up the fact of was I brave enough to get it done without anesthetic? I decided after about 15 minutes of pretending I was brave that I really wasn't that brave, and resigned myself to the fact that should they have to come to me with a local anesthetic to put it all back together again, then that's what they were going to do. And there wasn't too much I was going to do about it. But pain does stupid things to people, and I wish I was stronger. But I don't think I'm going to catch COVID from maybe one little local. So we'll see what happens. Josie is a cute name. I think Cass came up with Josie. I was going to call her Pick, which won't make much sense to you because it's short for toothpick. Why would I want to call her Toothpick? Well, I haven't told you the story of how she came into my hands. She came into my hands out of a dog's mouth. There was and is not a mark on her. Not a mark. The dog brought it to me, put it in my hand, and there were little indentations from where it had been lying on the teeth, but not a mark. And this was a Staffy. He clearly hadn't shaken it, because if he had shaken it, we would have only got half of it. Staffies, when they shake hard. And he didn't do any of that. He basically mouthed this little baby and brought it straight to us. Now, how did he get it? So we do have a number of wallabies on the property. It's a wild property. There's 134 acres. We've got kangaroos, koalas, all sorts of things floating around this property. What is interesting is that the dogs are inside a very large fenced area, and we usually don't see the wallabies or the kangaroos inside there. The fences are quite tall. But somehow, Mum must have got in there. And I can only assume that she got spooked when the dog turned up and did a runner, and Josie either fell out of her pouch because she was hanging out at the time, or was actually out of the pouch getting a little bit of that vitamin D that I was referring to earlier with Mum, or Mum was getting her to have a wee, and Mum got spooked and disappeared off, and the dogs brought back Josie. So I'm incredibly proud of the dog, incredibly happy with the dog. Very caring, very caring. The whole thing. I really only started thinking about it last night after we'd sort of managed to settle her down a bit. But I got to thinking about the dog, and yeah, what a tremendous effort. Seriously, this, if you could feel the skin, that's all there is on this thing. There is just skin. It is so fragile. Its little bones are so dainty, and there is not an issue with this little wallaby. Nothing. So staggered by that, but very, very proud of the dog. Very, very proud of the dog. I did mention Rumble is down. Yep. And doesn't look like it's come back up. Nope. Still hasn't come back up. So I can't even flip in halfway through a show. Yeah, very good doggo, Scotty. Very, very good doggo. I just want to say hello to a couple of people in Melbourne while I'm thinking of out in the Yarra Valley from memory. Luke and Belinda Wilson. Auntie Sam sends her best regards to you. Who knew? We're having a little bit of an in-joke here, but turns out that one of the ladies here on the property is family or associated family somewhere along the line. So hi, Luke. Hi, Belinda. Hope to see you next month down in Echuca or just out of Echuca for the big My Place getaway weekend. And yeah, we'll see what happens. You're 100% right, Deb. I'd forgotten about that. Peggy the Staffy was gentle with Molly the Magpie. Unbelievably so. Yeah. I had forgotten about that. In fact, this particular story was brought up to me today by someone because simply by talking about her here and showing you those pictures, there's going to be some do-gooder out there who thinks that, you know, they're going to save Josie better than maybe the 6 people on this property who've had, I dare say, a combined experience of over 100 years dealing with all sorts of animals, including marsupials. But please, people, do not be concerned. I am speaking almost on a daily, well, has been a daily basis so far, with wildlife carers, and I'm working with them in conjunction with them, taking advice as needed by them and offering what I'm doing to see if there is anything critically wrong. I want to do everything I can for this wonderful little creature, and I'm going to work my ass off to make sure that that happens. So if somebody wants to come along and play that stupid game here, you're going to have a bit of a fight on your hands. But I would do nothing to diminish her chances of survival. And if that's better with someone else, then you better be able to prove it. That's all I'm going to say. Dusty, that's an interesting point. I haven't heard that the Amish are turning out to vote for Trump. And they've got Trump flags on the carts and the wagons. Well, I've got to say that would be a huge turn up for the books, wouldn't it? The Amish coming out to vote. And they are predominantly in Pennsylvania from memory. And there are lots of them. So if that is the case and they are coming, then I think bring it on. It's going to be very exciting, the whole election thing, if it happens. Why might it not happen? Well, lots of shit's going on in the world at the moment. Have you seen the price of gold? Right now, $4,227.20. Price of silver, $51.11. It's gone up to over 52 and dropped back again today. Why is that the case? Well, Ainsley Bullion have, and I recommend this to you, go and get their newsletter. They send it out once a day, but if there is something worth talking about, they'll send another one out. And that's pretty much what happened today. The first one that came out is a brilliant article that is talking about the 100-year silver cycle. Now, the heading is silver entering 35 years of price appreciation? There's a very great, let's see if I can share this with you. Give me one moment. It'll be a lot easier than me looking away on one screen. And right, let's do that one. Okay, so this is where having a buggered wrist doesn't work. That screen size is a little bit too big. Let me bring that down a bit. Right, now you can get a bit of a look at what that is saying, I hope. I'll make that a little bit bigger. So this chart shows the silver and US dollar price overlaid over the gold to silver ratio over the 4 turnings of the past 100 years. What are the 4 turnings, I hear you ask? Well, you can see the great markers that this brilliant chart points out. Pardon me. And if we go down here, we can see these turnings. Now, the fourth turning of the last cycle began in 1929. It ended around 1944-45, end of the First World War. What is the first turning? The fourth turning. I beg your pardon. Let's go to the first turning. The first turning involves the rise of powerful institutions. It's a time of hope and optimism, focusing on growth and prosperity. Well, that does seem to be pretty true from 1945 through to about 1963, where the second turning comes through. That's where we see a rise of individuality, and the institutions established in the first turning start to face opposition. Does this start to sound familiar? What about the third turning? Individualism is truly alive, and institutions are perceived with increasing distrust. The focus here is on self and on having fun. This phase involved tax cuts, low interest rates, and financial overconfidence, leading to the increase of inflation and government deficits, which moved us into the final and fourth phase. Now, this third turning began in 1983 and went through to the crash of 2008. What is the fourth turning? Well, this is defined by war and revolution. Institutions are torn down and rebuilt for the sake of a nation's survival. Once the prevailing crises are overcome, society finds a sense of communal direction, unity, and common purpose into the first turning of the next 80-year cycle. 20-year cycles. This is what they're talking about with the silver and how it appreciates. Well, that's what these turnings are doing. GSR stands for gold-silver ratio. The fourth turning, 29 to 45, the gold-silver ratio is topping. The silver price is experiencing a bullish breakout. In 1945 to 63, the gold-silver ratio had a sharp drop-off. Silver price had a steady rise. The second turning, 63 to 1983, GSR is bottoming. That's below 20. That means 20 ounces of silver will buy 1 ounce of gold. The silver price is going parabolic in the second turning. The third turning, the gold-silver ratio has a sharp rise. Silver moves to a bullish accumulation pattern, something they refer to as cup and handle. And then the fourth turning, the session or the phase that we are in now, the gold-silver ratio is topping out. The silver price is experiencing a bullish breakout. As we transition from one 80-year cycle to the next 80-year cycle, from the old world to the new amid societal changes, chaos and financial collapses, the gold and silver ratio drops off at a scale unseen for 100 years, while the silver price goes into a multi-decade price appreciation phase. I want you to read that bit for yourself. A price appreciation phase. Now, during times of crisis, investors tend to seek out safe havens for assets. They get shelter from the storm, so to speak. Assets not connected to any government or financial institution. Assets with a proven track record over the millennia, such as gold and silver. This causes a significant price increase of both gold and silver, leading to the crisis, with gold outperforming silver initially. I wasn't going to read that to you, and I'll leave it there. But can I suggest to you, get online, get yourself lined up for that newsletter, because it's pretty bloody important. Why is it important? Well, I'm going to tell you. There is something else that's worth looking at, particularly if you are into cryptos. Oh, I've got to try and do this one-handed again. Right. Volcanic explosion with the BRICS Bitcoin mining efforts. So while the world was being distracted by Israel and Iran and America and their election, Bitcoin seems to be doing some interesting stuff. A stern warning to the USA and G7 nations at large that recently aired on US television, highlighting strategic Bitcoin moves being made by the BRICS and Friends nations. Now, essentially what this article goes on to explain is that BRICS and its, I think 22 confirmed participants at the moment, with 4 more, I believe, signing up in the last couple of weeks, or last week. They may not be included in that tally. This is a big deal. And I don't understand Bitcoin or crypto at all, but I understand this. Russia has allowed, because previously it's been banned, Bitcoin mining. There are some restrictions, but that's only on how much power they can use to mine the coins. Why are they mining Bitcoin? Because it's out of the financial fiat system, folks, and it's protected. So how many other nations? Are Australia, is our government out there mining Bitcoin, trying to protect the Australian assets? No, bloody sure we're not, because I don't think Albo Sleazy and his group of Qantas carry-ons are able to think that far ahead to begin with. I also believe that they're so corrupted with the US that they're not going to be able to do it, and they're just going to follow the US down the shit chute. That means they're going to take us with them. Be prepared. Put your money in gold and silver. AinsleyBullion.com.au. Go online, buy it, get it delivered to you, or go in and say hi. Melbourne and Brisbane offices are open daily, and they're a great bunch of people to go in and see and have a chat. And if you have questions, you don't have to buy. You can go in and touch, feel. I don't think they let you bite the gold these days, but you can go in and touch it, feel it. You don't have to buy any of it. You can just go in and ask questions and find out what's good for you. But look, if you'd have bought silver when I first started telling you to buy silver, every silver ounce you've got now would be worth nearly $13 more than you paid for it. And that's only going to get bigger, because like I showed you before, gold has and is continuing to bounce. It'll crack $4,300 every chance it'll do that tomorrow before the close of the market. And this weekend could be quite the doozy of a weekend. Mind you, I've been saying that for the last couple of weekends, and the only doozy thing that happened was that. Not happy, Jan. But 'tis what it is. So, yeah. Michelle, Bitcoin is used for trafficking. Yes, we've all heard that story. But if we're led to believe that the new financial system, the Nasara Jasara, the Great Financial Reset, Bitcoin cannot be ignored. Therefore, if it is going to be included in this, then it must have been cleaned. I have no doubt that Bitcoin has been used in the past for many nefarious circumstances. In fact, Bitcoin was one of the major transaction methods used on the Silk Road, which was a dark web. Well, you could order anything on the Silk Road. I think from drugs to humans to pedophiles to people who sate pedophiles. Truly, truly horrendous thing. And I think the guy who came up with it is still in jail. I don't know that he was a bad man for coming up with it. All he did was create an online ability to communicate and do so securely. I don't agree that it's a good thing that they, had pedophiles and drugs and all the other bad things in there. But if we are to believe that Nasara Jasara, the Great Reset, Financial Reset, fiat's gone, rainbow currency's coming, blockchain is coming, then we have to believe, we have to at least give a measure of belief to the fact that Bitcoin has also gone through that process and been cleared. We are still going to have banks. They've all gone and done Basel III, and some are now Basel IV compliant. So what does that mean, given what's happening with the current banking situation? Well, do you remember The Great Short? It's a movie. I told you to go and watch a little while ago. I think Cass actually told you to go and watch it, and it's well worth the look. It will tell you exactly how the market is going to be brought down, and that is by shorting silver. So an interesting thing that comes out of the Ingersoll Lockwood books that you might or might not be aware of, if you are unaware of Ingersoll Lockwood, look at how you spell Ingersoll, and then just add Lockwood to it, and then put .com at the end of it. Ingersoll Lockwood is a very interesting website, a very interesting website. And depending on how fastidious you are with your mouse pointer, you might find a few little secrets buried on some of their pages. But one of the best areas to go and have a look at in the Ingersoll Lockwood webpage is the library and some of the books that have been written. Very old books, in fact, written before the turn of the century, the 19th century. And one of them is Baron Trump and the Amazing Journey to the Center of the Earth, or something like that. There is another one that refers to the president coming back into office, and his first executive order is to back the dollar with silver, which destroys the bankers and the markets, and will put a call on all of those financial institutions that have shorted silver. Now, I told you the other day that there are 8 banks. There's probably more today, I haven't checked, but there are 8 banks now, and well over 708 million ounces of silver that they claim they own, that they don't own, but they've been able to write it off. And this is what they do. They write their debt off into silver and bury it in the market. And that is why the price of silver is so suppressed. But they can't keep suppressing it. And certainly when this call is put to them and they have to make the payment, they will not be able to. And those banks will shut. And it's all part of the debt clock, which I thought was interesting. Public trust is something we struggled with here in Australia. Public trust of our public servants, those who represent us in official places like councils, state and federal governments, those who take an oath that once used to be to the people, and the people still assume it is to the people, but in many cases it is not. And in fact, they are now admitting it. The police officer that I got so upset at last Friday night because he had the audacity to walk up to Darren Bergworth and quietly whisper in his ear saying, "Oh, you're doing the right thing, mate. You're doing all right. You're doing all right." Well, we wouldn't have to be doing the right thing if they did the right thing, if those coppers arrested the criminals in their government and in their police leadership. Don't care if you're a lowly constable. I don't care if you're a Freemason sergeant, although we'd never get your Freemason sergeant to go and arrest one of the higher-ups. We've got to get one of the constables to go and arrest the sergeant, because sergeant rank up, they're pretty much all in it. So, because from sergeant rank, you start to control things at a police station level. You can be in charge. A senior sergeant can be in charge of a police station. So, very easy to bury things when you're the senior sergeant of such places. So, no wonder they're finding it so hard to attract new people to come and play. But it seems that the government secrecy during the COVID pandemic has eroded the trust to a huge level, where it's not just government that is not trusted anymore. It is those agencies tasked to independently review and keep us safe from things like poisonous injections. The TGA has let the world down, and certainly let every Australian down in that regard. They are still claiming that they are doing the right thing. They've got to keep towing the line until somebody turns up with a rope and suggests that it is the rope or the truth. What would you like to share? Some of the bastards that were responsible for this no longer work for the TGA. They've been specially kissed in a nice, soft and warm place and given very fluffy jobs on huge salaries for Big Pharma. There's a surprise, hey? And yet, all the normies out there still seem to think nothing to see here. Nothing to see here. Is it any wonder I've called this whole friggin' debacle an IQ test? And so many, sadly, so many Australians failing the IQ test, not just the first one, which was the stick up the snoz, the jab in the arm. Now, 4 years down the track, the level of gullibility, the level of brainwashing that the bulk of this nation has accepted is both staggering and sad. I gave Australians credit for much greater collective intelligence. Instead, we have a bunch of people who to this day refuse to even consider the truth. And I think that is in part due, because they're not all stupid, I think it's in part due to the fact that they're embarrassed to admit that you got it right and they got it wrong. And they're embarrassed to admit that openly because of what they did to us during the time where they thought they were in the right, where we were the tinfoil hat wearers screaming obscenities and conspiracies into the wind. Now, with 90% of the conspiracies around that particular subject proving to be correct in every way, and in fact, correct in worse ways than we imagined, these people are now stupidly embarrassed to admit they were wrong. And I guess that too is not unsurprising, because to admit you are wrong means you are accepting the fact that you have poisoned yourself. You have radically altered your own DNA. And if you are a spiritual person and has read the Bible and actually understands what God's intent was for us, you're going to be terrified of what you've done to yourself. God created man in his own likeness. He came down to us. He died on the cross for our sins in the hope that we would follow God, that we would follow and support him. This nation, this world, is a hedonistic world. We are, for all intents and purposes, the modern day Sodom and Gomorrah. Where is Sodom? Where is Gomorrah? America and Europe. But I think because their tentacles have spread so far into other parts of the world, we're all in it. We're all in it. When will the truth come out? Well, it seems the New Zealanders are going there. A new Freedom of Information data shows 188% of deaths in children after the rollout of the COVID vaccine. 188% increase in deaths of children after the rollout of the jab. I wonder what they're going to do to the whistleblower in New Zealand now when there's a second report that comes out and essentially backs up all the data that he had access to. Clearly, most of that data will have been changed now. The government in New Zealand will have gone back and re-engineered those figures so they can present them in the court, make this bloke look like a liar and have him thrown in jail for the rest of his life. I sincerely hope that doesn't happen. Barry doesn't deserve that. Not in any way. He deserves to be put on a pillar and applauded for his strength, his honor, and his bravery in pointing out, showing the truth of what happened in New Zealand. We lack anybody with such intestinal fortitude here in this country who would do the same for Australians. Admittedly, we're a much bigger country. He was in charge of all of New Zealand's health data. The health data here in Australia was deliberately placed in the hands of the states, and they've locked you out of it. They've locked everybody out of it. The federal government doesn't need to know anything about it because it didn't have anything to do with it. They're all going to try and wash their hands, these bastards. But it turns out maybe I have been a bit hard on some of the cops. Maybe some of the Queensland ones are getting the idea. Hundreds of police officers are launching a class action against the Queensland government and the Queensland Police Force over the mandates that they were forced to endure. Now, I'm led to believe that a great deal of the people involved in this are working or were working police who either were forced because of their love of the job and lack of brain to take the jab, or they refused and were, in most cases, I think, with the Queensland Police Force, they were dismissed from their job with prejudice, meaning that should things change down the track, they wouldn't ever be allowed back into the police force because they refused this order. It's the same bullshit that they're playing with Queensland nurses. I don't know how many I know who have basically said, you can do what you like. We'll just stand there and take the money, thanks. But how many nurses that I know have gone and said, well, I won't do that. I will walk away from the job, the profession I've had for 10, 20, 30, 40 years, because I have a higher moral standing. Thank you to those people. But those nurses are now not allowed back in because they were essentially dishonourably dismissed. They refused to obey a direct Queensland Health Department order. And therefore, a line has been permanently drawn through their names in permanent black texter. And they will never be allowed to work inside the Queensland health system again. Well, I don't know what your health system's like where you are, but I can tell you the Queensland health system, the difference between this taking 3 hours to, 3.5 hours to get x-rayed and wrapped up, and the same job being done in 14 or 15 hours was just simply the application of money. A lot of money, stupidly. On the Gold Coast, it turns out on the weekend you can't get a bulk billed x-ray. No, you've got to go to the private hospital at the Gold Coast Hospital, where they apparently bulk bill, except they don't on the weekends. That's useful. Then the wait, if I had have gone over to emergency at the Gold Coast University Hospital, the wait there for me to get my arm plastered, and that's all it needed to be done. They had x-rays. They knew everything didn't need to be straightened. It just needed to be plastered. And I put a half cast on it. That wait was quoted to me at between 9 and 11 hours. My anxiety levels around hospitals wouldn't allow me to sit in an outpatient ward with an arm or a wrist that was broken in two places and no painkillers for 9 to 11 hours. Wasn't prepared to do that. $560 and 20 minutes later, that's the result. And the friggin' bandage is falling off. Not happy, Jan. What do you do? So our public health system is shot to shit in Queensland, and I suspect it's shot to shit all over your place as well. Interesting things happened at the White House the other day. What the hell is that? 7:41 on the 27th of October, Washington, D.C., the lawns out in front of the White House. I did have another picture, which I was going to show you to sort of back up what those might look like, partially built as they appear to be. What do we think that could be? Looks an awful lot like a hanging platform to me. If you go back and have a look at the hanging platforms used after the Nuremberg trial, you'll see some eerie similarities, I think. Very eerie similarities. Beyonce and Jay-Z, great friends of Diddy, but we're hearing some pretty strange things. Jay-Z and Diddy are more than friends. Beyonce has been, well, there's a few stories about Beyonce. There's a great one if you can go and dig out the video of her and her baby bump, where the baby bump turns into a frisbee as she's sitting down. Did she ever really have babies? Could she ever really have babies? So Beyonce as a child is that photo. Bey in Turkish translates to gentleman, boy, sir, adult, male, etc., mostly male associations and titles. Beyonce equals boy once, or once a boy. Who knows? But I am looking forward to it all coming out. My God, I'm looking forward to it all coming out. And I guess it will all come out. Have you been following the royals? I don't, as a rule. Particularly Harry and Meghan. I couldn't begin to tell you how low the level of interest I have in those two particular human beings are. But they do seem to be doing things on different sides of the world at the moment. Harry's back in the UK, or has been back in the UK, parading around, meeting people, opening things. That's almost sounding like a royal thing, like he used to do. And I was pretty confident that he wasn't allowed back in the UK to do those sorts of things, that the family had sort of said, no. But he's back there doing it. She, on the other hand, Meghan Markle, is trying to gain some relevance in Hollywood and lacking dramatically. Maybe she just needs to get a new photo out, like Harry. Could there be a reason Harry's hiding back in the UK at the moment? I don't know. But there are an awful lot of bribery allegations levelled against P. Diddy, Sean Puffy Coombs. And look, is that Harry lying there in bed with him? I don't know. But we have heard that all of these institutions are corrupted. And we have heard that Sean Combs is essentially another Jeffrey Epstein, somebody who gained the intel, gained blackmail to hold over people of high standing, I suppose, the elites in the community and their friends, and make a little club out of it all. Well, if Harry joined that club, I think we all know where Harry's going to wind up, just like the rest of the royal family, I would say. This is extremely true. If you are in any way, shape, or form doubting this, guys, can you please email me your doubts? Because I would like to hear an argument that supports the counterpoint to this. At no point in history have the people forcing others into compliance been the good guys. If you can go back through history and find me something, please email that to me, because I am very interested to learn more about that. And I dug this up earlier today. Now, you might have to come closer to your screen or blow it up or do something to be able to read it. This is a document that I've had for a long time, and I don't know if I've shown it to you before, and I don't know exactly how legitimate it is. It seems to have appropriate stamps, but once again, this is a thing off the web, and anybody can create anything on the web, so bear that in mind. Use your own discernment and take from it what you will. A decision in the court in the matter of the People versus Elizabeth Windsor, Joseph Ratzenberger et al., and their bodies corporate, the Crown of England and the Church of Rome. It is the unanimous verdict of this court that the 30 defendants and their bodies corporate named in the principal indictment are guilty as charged of committing and concealing crimes against humanity, genocide, and wars of aggression against the people, their children, and their liberties, and of thereby subverting the laws of the commons and of God. These convicted persons and bodies are thereby sentenced to immediate arrest and disestablishment, to the loss of their freedom, the forfeiture of their wealth and property, and to the revoking of their authority, laws, statutes, and governance. All of their agents and officers are forthwith released from their legal obligations towards these convicted persons and bodies corporate and will stand down from their offices. Having violated her coronation oath to uphold the faith and the liberties of the people of the Commonwealth by acting in the interests of a foreign power, namely the Church of Rome, and of thereby committing the treasonable offence of primune, or primune, is no longer the head of the Church and State of England, Canada, or any Commonwealth nation. The former authority of the Crown of England is revoked and nullified and shall be replaced by constitutional republics established by the people in covenant. Go and look up what the people in covenant means. It's very interesting, a very interesting definition, one you should learn. This decision of the court stands stare decisis and carries with it the full effect and enforcement of the law issued on the 25th day of February in 2013 in Brussels. The presiding magistrate signed it and stamped it, and yeah. So, I have a bit of a question. It's only a bit of a question, but it is, what the hell? How did that manage to disappear and still be on there? And I don't know why that is still being shown. I can't get it off for some reason. Share screen. No, we won't do it that way. Oh, I know why. I'm looking on the wrong bloody part. Let me just go down here and do a click. So, is this a real document? Well, I don't know. There's certainly been a lot of changes since February 2013, and old Lizzie, the Lizard Duke, and quite a few other world luminaries have disappeared from view since that date. Don't know that you could say the Queen was broke by the end of it, but if you're keeping up appearances, we are watching a movie, if that's what, we're to believe, then anything is possible. I'm going to send that off to a couple of people that I know who have been heavily involved in legal practices in the UK against the government there, and see whether or not we can get anything that backs up that document, something, maybe another copy of it that is a bit closer to the original. That might be possible. So I've sent that out, and I will send it out after the show again to a couple more people, and we'll see what we can get back from that. But I think it'll be an interesting little thing going forward. I don't know that I've got too much else to tell you. This little one needs a feed, so I'm going to have to shoot off, I think. But I just wanted you to know, folks, that thank you very much for your prayers. The love that's come through the phone, through email, for little Josie here is amazing. And yes, I will keep you up to date with her, but I'm not going to be showing her off on here a great deal. I've been told that if I'm taking up caring for her full time, then I can expect that she will come with me everywhere I go. She'll be like a little dog. Once she gets her walking legs up and whatnot, she'll scoot off, but she'll always see me as mum, and she'll come back. So once this thing comes off and I can drive this thing once again, I might have a little guest to show you when I turn up. I don't know how, if I can't drive the bus down to Victoria and South Australia for the events there in November and December, I don't know whether or not the airline, because I will come down regardless, I'll fly down, I hope, and come and stay. I don't know how the airline will go with me taking her on a plane. I'm not going to allow them to put her in a cage underneath. I know there are talks at the moment that you can take your pet, I think, in the cabin on some Virgin flights, or they're about to introduce that. If that is the case, then I might look into that and see how much extra that's going to cost. But I'll only be coming down if we've got money in the bank to pay for the airfares for me, and she'll only be coming down if there's a bit more in there to pay for her. Otherwise, she can stay up here for a week or two with somebody else, and they can look after her. There's plenty of people, as I say here, who've got lots of experience with marsupials, and she'll be left in very good hands. So, but I know a lot of you would love to see her. But the problem is, when they're this little, you don't see them. You get to see you get to see that, okay? Because that's about all they do all day. They sit there and hang in a bag. And she'll come out for a feed, she'll have a little wee, and then that'll be that. She'll be back in there again. She literally comes out, well, depending on how hard she is to feed, if she doesn't take the bottle straight away, she'd only be out of the bag 10 minutes. On a bad day doing that. On a good day, she's only out maybe 5, not even that long. Want to give her at least 5 minutes in the sun every day, but if this rain continues tomorrow, there's not going to be too much sun. But we know the rain will disappear and the sun will return. So thank you to everybody who's offered support, prayers, and love for the little one, and for me too. I appreciate it tremendously. I'm having a bit of a night tomorrow night on the Friday free-for-all. Sean Ambrose is going to join us, along with... I've forgotten who else. But Sean Ambrose will be on. He's got some pretty interesting news that he'd like to share with us, and it's going to give you an interesting little twist on life, the universe, and everything. Sean has some amazing skills. His researching skills are just phenomenal. And one day... he'll tell you his lineage. We'll probably have to dedicate a 3-hour show to it because to explain the family tree is quite significant. But look up the name Ambrose in history, and I'm not thinking Marcus Ambrose for those V8 supercar followers. Look that up and search the history of the name, where it came from, and how it may have been generated. You might find a little interesting thing or two in there too, and we can ask Sean about it on tomorrow night with the Friday free-for-all. Have yourself a good night, folks. I hope you sleep well. I intend to. I had a bit of a rough night last night with this one, but all things being equal in a beautiful world, it should be okay tonight. And I'll get the bottle going, get a feed into her, and she'll be off to sleep again, hopefully, for most of the night. She's up for 4 hourly feeds at the moment. I'm happy enough to be up for that. That's no problem. But last night, while I was trying to give her that, she just didn't want it. So she didn't really drink anything last night at all once we went to bed until first thing this morning. And even then, she wasn't terribly hungry. So I'm just glad that it's getting into her. As long as there's something going into her, and she is strong. That grip strength in those little hands is absolutely amazing. And the claws on her are like this long, her feet. Ooh. You don't want to get near them when they start kicking you, folks. Do more damage to you than a dickhead on the road. Have a good night.
You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up.
Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life.
It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back.
Does anybody else want to stay?
Let's ride!